guys, so my name is Laura and today I have my mom here chatting with us kind of about how she changed her training over the course of her life through different life stages. And so I think this is a really important conversation to have just because, especially talking with her, I realized that education and awareness wasn't there about what to do. And I think with the knowledge that we have now, it could have impacted how she was training, maybe some injuries along the way, maybe the duration of time she had to slow things down or modify things could have been mitigated a little bit better. So just kind of chatting, learning from her experience and kind of talking about what we can do. I by no means am an expert on hormones or pelvic floor or anything like that, but I do have some knowledge as a physical therapist and things like that. So we'll kind of chat as we go. But yeah.
And I'm no expert either. I just have experience.
And so I guess go ahead and explain your athletic history over the course of your life. So I guess sports and all of that stuff.
So I did a lot of different sports growing up, informally first, and then through middle and high school. And then college, I played field hockey and lacrosse. Back at the time when it was before the NCAA was anything important. I don't even know if it existed at that time for women's sports, at least.
And did you guys lift in college at all? 'Cause I know
it was optional.
Okay.
It definitely optional. And with my major, I didn't do it. I tried it a couple times and just didn't take the time outside of practice to do it.
Gotcha. And then I guess when you retired from athletics,
yes,
what did you end up doing?
I ran a little bit after at college, but it was very it was kind of whatever I felt like doing. It was not any kind of program that I followed. It was just what I felt like doing. And it slowed down over time. I did it less and less. And then once I got married, I was onto one healthcare plan with my husband, and that was an HMO that automatically checked for cholesterol. And at that time, it was not common to be tested for cholesterol, and I had high cholesterol. So I was told to make sure I exercise, and that's when I started running for 20 to 30 minutes, about 5 days a week. And I've continued that since then. I've added in more recently some weight training, whether it's body weight or actual weights. I vary it, but I'm still running mostly.
Faster than me.
For longer.
And for longer.
Longer distances than what you do, yes. And over the years, it has changed quite a bit as to how I train. For years, I would run fast on Mondays and slightly faster on Tuesdays, but pushing myself both days to run as fast as I could for 3 miles. My dream was to be able to run those 3 miles in under 21 minutes. And years ago now, I got that dream. And but I would take summers off, so I'd have to start over again. And what I found was on Wednesdays, I would be too tired to run as hard. Thursdays, I would run longer. Fridays, I would run a shorter distance, like a mile or a mile and a half, as fast as I could. And as the years went on, I found that I was my fastest somewhere around age 50 or so, which surprised me as for the timing of it, because you don't think of somebody in their early 50s as being the most athletic that they've ever been.
Before kind of going into, I can see where you're going, but I kind of want to rewind a little bit.
Yep.
So we're very familiar with like college athletics, things like that. Looking back on it now, do you have a different opinion on lifting in college versus not lifting in college and incorporating that?
I definitely see the value in lifting at this point. I can see the huge advantage to lifting. And of course, that was at a time when girls didn't often lift. But once they started to, the difference in the strength is incredible now.
Yeah. I know, like from a gymnastics standpoint, you don't necessarily lift weights until college, or at least that was my experience. I know some gyms are incorporating it now in like the junior Olympic realm and things like that, which is awesome. But you can just tell the difference in power from a college athlete to like a high school athlete, and it's just crazy. And it's just because of the lifting that you add. So I could definitely see that being valuable in field hockey and lacrosse as well. But going into, because obviously I have a sister, so we've had 2 pregnancies. How did your training change before pregnancy? Because that was after you were running pretty regularly for health. And then with your first pregnancy, and then how did that change between the pregnancies and then during the second pregnancy, I guess?
Yeah, while I was pregnant, I was not running, but I was still walking and getting exercise as best I could.
Is that because you were a doctor, or was that just kind of what people did? Or
it's more what people did. I think I don't really remember, honestly, ever being told by a doctor to not do anything until I was put on bed rest.
That's fair.
But that's different. But I did end up with separated stomach muscles because I was doing sit-ups, etc. And during pregnancy, and didn't know any better at that time.
So what we've kind of learned now, and this is like my knowledge, again, I'm no pelvic floor specialist, but diastasis, which is the separation of your abdominal muscles, is normal in pregnancy. You want to just make sure you're controlling the intra-abdominal pressure. So there are certain things to look for, like the coning, where it's like you see the protrusion like coming through almost. So you kind of get like the taper if you're looking down at your stomach, and that just shows that you're not necessarily controlling your intra-abdominal pressure. And some cues and just some modifications and incorporating some breathing and some like deep core work and pelvic floor work can be helpful in regulating that. And so we do have the knowledge now and to look at that, and then if you do see it, then you can modify accordingly and continue training. But that's kind of what we know now. So
I did not know that then.
Do you by any chance, I'm curious, do you remember seeing any coning?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know that was wrong.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then after the pregnancies, or the pregnancy, because that was your first one.
Yep.
Did you, and you had an appointment with a pelvic floor therapist right after that one, or was that the second one? Or was that me?
After, I'm trying to remember who, I think it was after you that I got the physical therapy.
Okay, and I was just wondering, was it or like a consult kind of deal, or did you actually go?
I think twice that I went.
Okay. But so going back to my sister, after that pregnancy, how did you get back to training?
It's very difficult when you have a child that you don't put in daycare. So I started as soon as I could, and I would just lay her on the floor and run around her. And because of my background in field hockey and lacrosse, I had a lot of knowledge of how to do indoor practices, to get in shape. So I would use that to do quick stepping and jumping and different things to get my heart rate going for that 20 to 30 minutes that was recommended at that time. And at the same time, I could watch my child and keep her entertained.
It's definitely interesting, like hearing what moms have to do, and just it blows my mind. Mad respect to you parents out there. But did you notice any like changes in? Because like, did you continue to do sit-ups after that, and like, did you still notice some of the coning and doming, or like, did that kind of resolve itself? Or, and then did you?
I guess it resolved itself over time, but after my pregnancies, I couldn't do a sit-up. I would have to roll to the side in order to sit up. But with the therapy, I was able to get that strength back, and now it's fine.
So were you able to do a sit-up between the first and the second pregnancy?
I don't remember.
I was just curious. Did your training change at all from like the first pregnancy to the second pregnancy, or just like I kind of knew what I was doing at that point, did the same thing?
Well, with the second pregnancy, I was chasing after a child.
That's true.
So that definitely changed things, and she was doing a lot of running around outside at playgrounds and playing with friends down the street too. So there was a lot of spending time outside, and she was always very active.
So in turn, you had to be active.
Yes.
Gotcha. And then what was your experience after the second pregnancy with the pelvic floor physical therapist?
She did a great job describing to me what exercises I should do. I did them, and definitely helped, and went back for the second visit, and at that point, she said, "You're good."
I just found it very interesting that back then you saw a pelvic floor physical therapist, because now because they had one in your practice for the doctor, right?
It was, I was seen at my OBGYN's office.
Which, mad props to them. Like, yes. Honestly, after pregnancy, seeing a pelvic floor physical therapist should be part of the continuum of care. It just blows my mind that people don't get that. And back then in the 1990s, the early 90s,
yes,
you were getting that. So mad props to that office is all I have to say. And then I guess, how was it getting back to training and during like the rest of your adult life before, I guess, menopause?
Yeah.
Or perimenopause?
At some point we got a treadmill, and that was how I got my running in for a very long time. And in fact,
I have memories of this.
And in fact, I would run in the mornings, and Laura would wake up, hear me, and come to the room where I had the treadmill set up.
I had like the tiniest blanket too.
And take a baby blanket.
It was tiny. I didn't fit in it anymore, but we didn't have like bigger ones. Or it was just there. So yeah, I was too lazy to go into another room and get a bigger blanket. But I would just like grab this tiny blanket, lay on the ground, and fall back asleep. And then I remember in high school, I worked at the front office of a gym. And I was just chilling there. It was a pretty slow day. And then all of a sudden, like someone was running on the treadmill at a very familiar pace. And I was like, all of a sudden, I got really tired. And it was because she was probably running at a very similar pace to what my mom used to do when I would fall asleep. So I thought that was kind of funny. Yeah. But yeah, many memories on the treadmill, also playing on the treadmill and getting yelled at. But
and let's see, I went through an exercise bike, and
like
two treadmills.
Well, do you include the ones at work? Because so she now works.
Well,
out.
No, not okay. Including the ones at work. Okay. And then when I started working where I'm currently working, they have a gym there that I can use, and I continued, after my treadmill broke, I continued with using the treadmill there. And I went through 2 treadmills there, working on the third. So I'm just very consistent, I guess.
Yes.
But I'm also not the only one using those treadmills anymore.
Like I remember getting texts when I was in undergrad of like, oh, I ran this many miles in this many minutes today.
Yes.
And I'm like, dude, that's just crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
So mad props to staying that consistent over this many years.
And now,
I guess, how do you, like, what's your reasoning? Why do you stay so consistent? And what makes you do it when you don't really feel like it?
Health. It's one thing. Same reason I started is for my health. I have found that it helps with so many different things, from the cholesterol, which was the original reason, to the hormone balance. From what I understand, it helps with that. It helps keep germs away. From what I understand, exercise does help your immune system. I haven't really gotten sick badly for years now.
Yeah, and
I do
4-year-olds.
Yes, I do work with young children with their. They get sick all the time around me. I had not missed a day of work in the 15 years that I've worked at this particular place for illness.
Going back to your training, I guess, how did it change? And did you realize what was happening in the perimenopausal time?
I did not know what was happening at all. But all of a sudden, I got to be really fast. And that 21-minute 3-mile mark was blown away. I was down to under 20 minutes. And then all of a sudden, I started pulling my hamstrings. Didn't know what was going on, but I had to take some time off. And when I say time off, I'm talking about less than a week before I could move again, but I would go very slowly.
Yeah. I remember getting texts during this period because I think I was in undergrad or maybe PT school.
No, undergrad.
And I feel like though the tail end of I started PT school still at some point in law.
Yeah.
Anyways, So somewhere in that
number
time,
of years. Yeah.
And like I got a text like, oh, I pulled my hamstring or whatever, and like I was able to walk today. I was able to very slowly jog today, and just slowly going back to it. And did you ever see a physical therapist at all for that, or
no? Never did.
And I guess like what did you do when you had those injuries to get back to it?
I just exactly what you just said would ease back into it. I would wait until I could walk normally before I would go to the next step, and then jog, and then and I learned that I needed to be patient with myself. That it would take longer and longer to heal. If I would push it too much, it just extended that healing time. And I learned that I needed to take my time getting back to being faster. And I haven't gotten back to that super fast pace again, but I've gotten close.
Do you think that you potentially could have gotten back faster if you sought medical care or anything like that? I'm just curious.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because, I mean, like my thought looking back on it is there are definitely things that we could have done. Whether it was like actually addressing maybe some strength imbalances that you might have had at the time that were contributing to that, or maybe doing some like eccentric hamstring training. And I think I might have told you that at the end.
I think you may have helped me near the end of it.
Yeah, because I remember like saying, "Okay, like stretch it," like
Yeah.
I feel like I remember checking your sciatic. Did I ever check your sciatic tension?
You had me check it at one point.
Yeah, I described how to. Just to kind of
and you did give me some exercises.
Like when I was like early in PT school.
Yeah.
And did you find that helpful, or didn't really?
I think so, but I don't know how much it.
Yeah.
I don't know how much it helps. It's you can't.
Yeah.
Measure both.
Right. Yeah. So we were able to get back to after the like multiple hamstring. I think it was like at least 3 times.
Yes.
From I remember.
Yes.
I don't know if you.
It was probably 4 or 5 years of November through January or February having to worry about it.
Which is interesting because you took the summers off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Still. Okay.
Yep, but I don't anymore.
Yeah.
I can't.
Is it because of that? Or
I know that as you get older, you lose strength faster. Yeah. And it's harder to get back into it, I've noticed. And of course, injuries will happen more. Yeah. So yeah, I don't take the summers off anymore the way I did.
I guess so. When did you realize?
And I guess when I say take the summers off, that means running much less frequently, but not completely off.
Yeah. So I guess looking back on it, when did you realize that it might have been related to menopause? And then you also had
I had some other health issues.
Yeah.
That had to do with menopause, and that's really what clued me in.
So do you mind diving into that at all, or?
I had some very high blood pressure.
I do remember this as well.
Yes, you were there.
Yes, I was. I think I was from, I don't know
from
which school though.
Yeah, from PT school, I believe.
Okay, yeah.
And you were actually the one who tested me and said, "Okay, let's get you to a."
Did I test your blood pressure, or
you did a test where I leaned over and then turned my head to the side.
Oh yeah, because you were dizzy.
Yes.
Okay, that's why.
And then you determined
that it was not related to that. It was something else was going on.
Yes, and I ended up going to an urgent care that did nothing.
Besides determined that the blood pressure was very, or no, did we go to the?
Yeah, they determined that the blood pressure was very high, and they said if it doesn't come down soon, then go to an emergency room. But it went down.
Yeah, and then you had
another episode of it where I went to see my doctor's office, and they sent me to a cardiologist. The cardiologist was the one who said, "It's just menopause. It's okay."
Interesting.
But he didn't say it in those words.
I'm curious now.
He was the one who gave me that idea, but it wasn't until I think you were doing some research actually at some point.
Which doesn't surprise me.
And that was when I went, oh, my muscle tightness would be from that.
Because you also, I remember saying like you couldn't touch your toes for the longest period of time, and then all of a sudden,
yes, I was able to, again, without stretching. I stopped stretching because it wasn't helping, and all of a sudden I was able to touch my toes again the way I used to. It was, without stretching, just bend over and touch the floor, palms down.
And knowing what, like, I know your hormones do impact your laxity. So like ligament laxity, for example. So at certain times of the month, you might be more susceptible to like tear an ACL or something like that. And I noticed like before I had my shoulder surgery, because it was some instability there, I did notice at certain times of the month, it bothered me more because of that instability and the hormone fluctuations and things like that. So hormones definitely do play a role, and that stiffening up as well is partly hormone related. So.
And it's something that people don't talk about.
Yeah.
You hear about hot flashes all the time, but never hear about the becoming inflexible.
Yeah. Any other like symptoms that you noticed? There's a ton of different symptoms that you can have. So and you don't have to have all of them or any of them or whatever. So do keep that in mind. This is just her experience.
Yeah.
But
I was very lucky.
yeah.
I did not have very many symptoms.
So just besides like the flexibility and
Yes.
the increased injuries.
Yes.
And then, okay.
That's pretty much it that I can think of.
And then how has your training, I know you meant like, so post-menopause, how has your training changed? I know you said that you now run through
Yes.
the summer.
And I also, remember I said on Mondays and Tuesdays I would run hard. I can't do that anymore. Mondays I'll run hard. Tuesday is a much lighter day. I just take it easy. And Wednesday I can run harder again or longer. And then Thursday, depending on what I did on Wednesday, I'll change it up for Thursday. Friday is still a fast, short run.
So definitely a little bit more recovery time.
Yes, I definitely need more recovery time now than what I used to. And that seems to be working. I'm still increasing the pace the way I used to, even with that extra recovery time.
Nice. I know you mentioned you started weight training at some point. When did you start that and why did you start that?
I started it probably because of your influence or
I was trying for a while.
Yes.
For quite some time.
But at one point my doctor told me that I needed to gain some weight in muscle. So I decided
I think that was more it, honestly.
Yeah.
I had been trying for so
Yeah.
long, and then her doctor told her, and then she started.
Yeah. So after my short fast run on Fridays, I do a lot of the weight training then. I've always, throughout my post-college years, done sit-ups or V-ups.
Yeah, because I remember
and push-ups.
growing up, it was like before you put your shoes on in the morning.
Yes.
You would do.
Or right as I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a certain number of.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
Did you do one one exercise and
Yep.
then you alternated?
Yes.
Okay.
Still do it.
Yeah. So it was alternating push-ups, sit-ups.
Yeah.
Or push-ups and sit-ups.
V-up.
Or push-ups and V-ups, sorry.
V-ups are Mondays, Wednesdays, push-ups Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. It's tuck pike straddles.
So little mix of it in there. But yeah, so like just something as little as that, incorporating it into your day. I just liked the stacking it on top of putting your shoes on in the morning.
Yeah, because I'm there on the floor, putting my shoes on and just.
I just remember walking in one morning, and I did not know you did this for the longest time. And I remember going in there and, what are you doing? And that's when I learned that you did that.
Yep.
Are you still pretty much, besides the push-ups and V-ups, and then the weight training on Fridays, are you doing any other things? Or
I do a lat pull down on Mondays and Wednesdays.
So just kind of like an exercise.
Yeah, just
here and there.
Yes.
Okay.
I've also added in candlestick pistol squat.
She can do a pistol squat on one leg. She's working on the other.
So sometimes I can do it on the other leg.
I've offered to help, and she does not want me to. So very proud of her for the pistol squat. Anything else you can think of that you might find helpful or might be helpful for people to know just from your experience?
I think the bottom line is, if you are prone to injury, give yourself time to heal, and figure out why the injury is happening.
And that can be like a musculoskeletal thing or an imbalance or something like that. And it could also be a combination of that and hormones or something along those lines. And yes, you are going to have changes throughout your life, but you're not necessarily, getting older isn't necessarily doomed for, like she said, she was running her fastest in her 50s.
Yes.
So getting older isn't necessarily a crutch you can lean on. It's more taking care of yourself, fueling your body appropriately, making sure everything is balanced to prepare your body and support it through each stage of life, however it needs to be, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it's interesting. I hadn't actually heard some of it. Like I knew some things, I didn't know all of it. And I thought that was very interesting that your cardiologist just kind of dismissed it. And yeah, but
Yeah.
anyways, so if you did find this helpful, go ahead and let us know below. If there's anything else that you have questions on or anything like that, go ahead and drop them below. If you do want any follow along workouts, I'm going to go ahead and link them somewhere over here so you guys can check those out to incorporate into your routine.
Sounds good.
Thanks for doing this.
Sure.